and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A gibbous moon starts the day here at Djuma Game Reserve in South Africa. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
Well, good morning everybody and welcome to Safari Live this morning. My name's Tara and joining me on camera this morning is Senzo. We also have Tristan out on the other vehicle as well, and we have the lovely ladies back in final control, Alice and Chantel. It is wonderful to be out here in South Africa this morning in the beautiful game reserve of Djuma in the Sabi Sands. Now this is a completely live game drive, so wherever you are in the world, you are joining us as dawn is breaking. It's just breaking behind us here, so the moon is just about to set. So if you would like to get in touch with us, send in any of your questions, any of your comments, please do. It is great to hear from you and we always love your questions coming through, and send them through to either Twitter #SafariLive or the YouTube channel. So our ladies back in final control will actually be able to see your questions coming through to us. Now, we've actually had quite a lot of excitement, and if you were watching the dam cam last night, I believe the lions have been drinking. We did hear a buffalo calling out last night. It sounds like the lions probably did attack them. We're not sure how successful they've been. It sounded like they were successful, but I think Tristan is very keen to follow up on them this morning, so he's going to see if there's any action around there. I've just found a set of tracks. Got slightly confused because they're quite small. My first instinct was that they were lion because the toes were quite far apart, but then I was thinking, but why would the female lion leave what's happened down there to go off on her own? So then, as I say, sort of the more sensible side of my brain started saying, oh, maybe it's an adult leopard. And there was a few of the toes sort of pushed back towards the pad, which is very characteristic of the leopard. But when I got out to measure it, it was about 120 mils. So that is putting it as a female lion. And as I say, as we started driving up, we then saw the toes come further apart from the pad again. So it's all to do with how thick the sand is and where the toes actually get placed back or spread apart. So as the sand started getting slightly thinner, then we were getting that nice clear track to distinguish between the two. So I'm on the trail of the female. Now unfortunately there's been a vehicle driving down here, so we lost the tracks a bit further back, so we're going to check Gallagher's shortcut and just see if she hasn't headed up there. Now it could be that she's meeting up with a male, perhaps she's in estrus, so it could be that if there was any calling going on, which perhaps there was, then she might be able to find him and potentially mate. So we're going to try and stay on the trail. You never know, she might just be lying off in the bush here. It might even be a female from a different pride relocating the rest of a pride somewhere. So something funny's happened, but hopefully we'll try and get to the bottom of that. Failing that, if we're not able to locate her, then we're going to head south, see if we can maybe catch up with those leopards, because of course Tristan actually had the mating pair last night in the Milwati. Apparently one leopard made it onto the dam wall last night, so I wonder where they went to from there. So we'll probably see if we can have a drive down Twin Dams, see if we can pick up any tracks. Hosanna was also on the trail of the two mating leopards coming up from the south around Twin Dams, so that's why we're going to head down there. So there was a lot of action last night, so we're all keen to see if we can catch up and figure out what had happened. So we're going to carry on. I think Tristan has also got an update for you, so fingers crossed Tris is going to be hot on the heels of the lions and the buffalo tail for you. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our sunrise safari. As you can see there by the sun starting to come up. As Tara mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I have Sebastian. And yes, it was a busy night out there indeed. There was lots going on, so thank you to all of you that let us know via the tweets on Twitter about the cats at Dam Cam. Now remember, if you are joining us and you are a new viewer, that you can ask us any questions via hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Now, what we're going to try and do is, we can see we've got the dam here in front of us. Now we need to be incognito as we sneak quickly over the dam wall while the guests are still at the lodge. So you can't tell anybody. We have to be quiet while we do this. And then we're going to try and see if we can't find these lions that were making, well, seems like they were making a buffalo get into a little bit of a distress last night. And I believe they were drinking around the pan, so I wonder if maybe they didn't manage to get one of these buffaloes somewhere. It sounded like I was outside last night and I could hear it. It sounded like it was just off Mvubu Road, maybe between Mvubu and Gari Cut Line. So we're going to try and just quickly go and have a look and see if we can't find their tracks. If they have got something that they've killed, then we're going to find a situation that they came down to drink and they would have maybe gone back again to go and see what's, well, to go back and feed. So that's the plan for the morning. On the dam wall last night, so it was an action-packed evening around Vuyatela and Gari Dam, so hopefully we shall be able to continue with that action-packed and find all the things that we're looking for. But like I said, we need to just quickly sneak across the dam wall because we're not really allowed to go over here while the guests are in camp, but it's going to be our why we're doing it, and that's why all my lights are off. You might be wondering why I don't have a spotlight out and all my lights are not on. Shine. Check quickly. So Izzy, you say you love how I'm crouching and trying to be quiet. Yes, it's important to keep a low profile, especially when crossing the dam wall, because Wendy, she's a sleek lady. She doesn't have too many curves on her, and so she's able to creep through without anyone noticing, hopefully, and then everything will be okay. Right, now we go through the dip and we should be just fine after that. So there we go. Now I need to start looking for tracks for these lions and where they could have gone from here. I would imagine, like I say, that they must have followed the scent of these buffalo through this area, because this is where the buffalo were last night when I left them. There we have. Now we need to check very carefully on Mvubu, because like I said, this is where the buffalo crossed, and I wonder if they just didn't pick up the scent from the dam like what we were talking about yesterday, and then followed it up and through and into this area. Those buffalo, the last time I saw them, were meandering around quite close to where I am now, and I wouldn't be surprised if I find the buffalo tracks up in front that the lion's paw prints will be on top. So we're just going to go slowly and just try and find where those buffalo did cross here. Must be around this area where I am now, because I remember them coming past that big tree. Nothing so far. I suppose I can put on my one light. There we go. That's going to help me just a little bit. No sign there. So, I mean, with the Nkuhuma Pride, we should theoretically see quite clearly where their tracks are. It's not exactly a small bunch of lions. At the end of the day, there is 44 feet that we can look out for. But every now and then you can miss them if you're not paying attention too much. But I don't see any signs of even the buffalo tracks here. And I know that they crossed the road further back. So there must have been a vehicle that drove here yesterday that maybe squashed the buffalo tracks. Okay, so not much that I can see here. I wonder where our kitties went. Now, I believe Connor's in trouble with Tara, because Tara says that Connor went and changed the batteries at the Gari repeater this morning, because they go a little bit flat if we have a bit of overcast weather, and he's apparently driven over Tara's tracks. So Connor, you're in trouble when Tara gets back. But I'm sure as of Zoe's Road, if those tracks continue, then Tara should be just fine with those. Alright, so nothing that I can see here. I'm just gonna go through this little drainage section and just check towards the road that goes to Gallagher Pan if there's just gone over the dam wall and behind and into that drainage line behind the dam wall. So I'm going to quickly check here and then turn around and go. While we do that, let's go and get an update on how Connor smashed those tracks with Tara.
How's it, everybody? So unfortunately this is not the best light for tracking, so I'm just trying to take it slowly. We're just around where the last track is. I'd love to show you, but I don't think it's going to come out on camera too well. So I'm just trying to see if there's any sign. We're picking up the odd one or two toes. So I'm just trying to see if there's any sign of her crossing over. She kind of comes to the middle, but then she stays on the right, which suggests she had it in mind that she was going to go that way. If she's going to turn or go straight, she can stay on either side of the road, but if she crosses from one side of the road to the other, it could mean that she's thinking about turning left. Just like a human, they take the shortest route of where they want to go. Okay, I'm not getting anything else here, so that's our last point there. Unfortunately, I think those tracks have been driven over. We've got Hyena going in that direction. Okay, so we've been up to this junction here, so that was... We'll go a little bit further up and just see if we can pick anything up behind the junction. So I'm just saying I can actually show you rather than try and show you on the ground, because as I say, the light is not great. So let me just show you quickly on here to show you what I was meaning about the toes being set back. There we go. Okay. So with the lion tracks, so these are much bigger than what they're being shown in the book. So these are all reduced, you can see here. But the toes are quite a lot further apart from the pad than that of the leopard. The leopard are usually quite neat and quite close. Hi, Sky. Sky saying it could be quite a messy affair. Lions attacking a buffalo, and it can be quite drawn out as well if they don't kill it outright, which sometimes they don't, and it's not very nice. So she is walking in the middle of the road, so I have just picked up the tracks again. It is starting to get a little bit brighter now, so I think she's gone back over onto one of the sides because I've lost it again. Oh, there she goes. Oh, actually, no, they're still a little slightly obliterated. No, I am seeing the... Well, except a lone female in their pride. And it's not unheard of, I don't think, especially if there's not many females in the pride. Can you see any? Just that little bit going off down there. I think it has kept here. But it's not the norm. Generally speaking, pride members are related, so it will be aunts and daughters. So in the middle of the road again, and it is crossing, so potentially going down this power line here. Can you see it there? Cool. Okay, so we're going to carry on. I think I am changing my mind. I think it could be a young male. So we're going to carry on trying. There he goes, down this power line here. So we'll see how Tristan's getting on with his detective work this morning. All anticipating.
Well, I found where one of the lionesses was lying on the road. You can see her tracks this place where she was lying quite clearly. It's quite a nice track actually. So just here on my right hand side, you'll see that there's a big smoothed area over there, and then you'll actually see where the tail was off the back end of the line. So I'll get out and show you quickly what I mean. But it seems as though one of the lionesses was here. So I think what's happened is that they have potentially hunted in this block over here, and that's where all the noises come from, and this is where one of them was lying. So this whole area here is where the lion was lying. You can see its footprint is actually inside the track over there. There's the 3 lobes and the toes, and then coming back this way, you see where the tail was and how the tail was moving around. So there was definitely a lioness lying here. Now what could have happened is that this lioness potentially was lying in wait, the rest of the pride inside the block, and they then chase towards one another. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. I haven't found any buffalo tracks yet, so it doesn't look like there was any buffalo running over the road here and they went into this next block. So I'm going to just quickly check further up to make sure, but her tracks are going southwards down the road a little bit. So we'll see what we can find. We've got Tax and Aubrey also giving us a hand, so that will certainly help. But I wonder, I hear some Franklins down here. There are 1 or 2 Franklins making a little bit of noise. I wonder if they maybe didn't have a go at these buffalo down in this drainage section. It could have very well have been this drainage section. I just want to quickly have a little look, because the track for this female disappears just in front of me here, and I can't see whether it goes right or left, but there is a little sort of viewpoint from down here, so it's worth just checking. Buffalo will often seek shelter if they're being chased, and they'll try and get into thicker, denser areas. So running into a drainage like this would be the perfect place for a buffalo, and the sound is about right. It's somewhere in this general vicinity that we are in at the moment. I just want to try and see if I can see where the Franklins are. Any lions lounging about in here. Alright, but let's carry on and try and see if we can't get up Gari Cutline a little bit and just check if there's any more sign of any buffalo running across the road, because I want to just make 100% sure that these buffalo didn't cross and the lions then hunted them in this side. It must be that they hopefully are in that side. It'll be much easier if it's this side. This side is a bit of a mess in there and not easy to negotiate, so I'm really hoping that it's on our left side and not our right that these buffalo could potentially be. They were attracted to the noise of this buffalo in distress, and there was a lot of noise going on. It went on for over half an hour, I would imagine, and so it really would have attracted the attention of quite a few different predators. Let's get rid of the light, because actually the light is hindering our ability to see what's going on. No, nothing there. I was kind of hoping that there would have been somewhere where it was nicey to find, but at this stage it seems as though it's going to be one of those situations where it's going to be a tough one and a tough morning to get them. The easiest way is going to be on foot if somebody just finds where they went into the block and carries on. I know that I got an update that they crossed over Mvubu, so they must have been inside here, and the sound sounded like roughly in this area. So what we might do is just have to do a bit of bundu bashing through this block and try and see if we can't find any sign of these guys. Now hold on, there's some tracks here as well. It looks like no, those are just for an elephant that was being naughty here. As lions as well that were here. Okay, so there was an elephant track which I thought it might be, but I can see the rest of the pride is crossed here. So if we have a look, we've got a section where they were lying down over there, and there's tracks going straight across for at least 2 individuals going here, maybe even 3. So this is actually not a bad place to check. So there you can see the footprints there, and then there's some a little bit further up over there where Sabi is now. So there's definitely a whole bunch of them that went across here. And it might be that these Franklins are actually making a noise for these lions. So I'm going to try and quickly just see what's happening here, and while we do that, let's go back to Tara and see how her lion tracking mission is going.
Well, we're still on the trail, and it's still heading west. So I'm just being very careful because it looks like he is just literally going to be heading west on this road, but I just want to make sure wherever we find a game trail that he's not cutting off anywhere. It looks like he's got somewhere in mind, perhaps a pan to go and drink. So I think Tristan was able to show you the lion track on the ground by the sounds of it. Hi Michael, good morning to you. Asking if temperature affects tracking. Not so much the temperature, but certainly the depth of the substrate that they're walking through. As I say, the most accurate they found, because we did write a paper on that, the most accurate that we found seemed to be, to get measurements, seemed to be very thin soil, thin sand. Yeah, we are still going. As I say, in the thick sand, it can be quite a few centimetres difference. Millimetres, which can make up to about a centimetre. We also found that different people could measure the same track and get several different measurements from it. If there were amateur trackers, it tended to be quite a large difference compared to more experienced trackers. Now, have I just lost? But we are coming to a little bend, so we should have crossed over. Have you got them there? Oh yeah, I can see them there. So as I say, if they've got somewhere, you can kind of try and work out, or if they...
Now, unfortunately, Tara is got some gremlin problems, and so she's going to carry on with her tracking, and well, so are we. So we found those tracks that are going over into the drainage, and I want to quickly just go in here. It's going to be much easier for me to access than back where the tracks are, so that's going to help me if I just go over here like I initially suspected. Where's that little entrance? Here it is. So I'm hoping that whatever happened played out inside here, because the sound is about right. I thought it was a bit more up on the ridge, but it sounds as though maybe, well, it looks as though they've gone down towards this riverbed system, so maybe it's just a throwing of sound with the drainage line, things often do echo a little bit through there, so it can be a bit misleading. Now the dam cam is just on the other side here, so that's why the sound would have been quite clear from there. But let's check this side quickly. This will always be now for me Thandi and Tamba's tree after their few days spent there feeding on an impala kill. Okay. Now we're going to just try and see this drainage line. I can't follow it too far, but most certainly we'll try go as far as I can, and hopefully it will be far enough to where those tracks did cross. I somehow think I might not get to the exact area where they did cross because it's quite dense in here, and there's a place where you just can't get any further. There's a massive fallen over tree across the riverbed, so I'm just going to try and see how far I can go. It's also worth, while we're down here, is just checking for tracks. You never know, they might have come down and gone back again, so it's always worth it when you're driving in riverbeds like this, just to make 100% sure, check carefully, look around while you're doing it. Even if you're not seeing the animal, it's just to actually check for any signs of them as well. Alright, just careful there, Seb. So Sky, you want to know when the vultures would start circling if there was a buffalo kill. Well, Sky, basically the vultures would only start circling once the sun gets up a little bit. They need the thermals to be able to get up and then to be able to see it. The other side of it is they've got to be able to actually see the kill. If the kill is in a dense, deep thicket, the vultures won't see it and they actually won't bother the lions too much. But I would imagine within probably the next, I would say, hour or so, once the sun is up and it's getting a bit warmer, then you'll start to see them riding thermals and having a look around. So it takes a little bit of time. Often I've found with kills that happen over the night, you generally only find the vultures sort of that afternoon arriving or during the middle of the day. It's very seldom that you actually see them first thing in the morning after a kill has happened. So as you can see, this is what I was talking about it being quite dense and thick in here. It's not an easy place to negotiate, but we're certainly going to try and see if I can't get through as far as possible. Now it may look as though we can't fit here, but we most certainly can because I've done it before. So this little gap between us here is absolutely perfect to fit a Land Rover, apparently, if Wendy decides. Antenna, which means that we might
I'm really sorry guys, not sure what happened there, but it sounds like both of us have gremlins this morning, so hopefully we've managed to fight them off and they're now back in the bush. So we followed the lion tracks to where the power line actually crosses the Sandy Patch Road. Looks like the tracks went off into the bush, so I'm just checking to see if they haven't come out here, and then we'll do a loop down onto Triple M. Just checking the bush just to see if he's not lying up in the bush somewhere. So some people asking about young male cub, possibly from a big beast of a leopard. I mean, I haven't seen Tingana's spoor, so yeah, as I say, the art of tracking is actually an art as well. So, you know, I'm not ruling that out completely, but as I say, the size of it and the look of it, certainly when I had it on the thinner subject. Oh, there we go, got a hyena walking down the road. How about that? Now, I'm just wondering, I was going to say I could move, but probably be a bit late for that now. Are you just going to come walking past us? On a mission, maybe back home. Quite a young hyena. Nice and furry. Heading off on the game trail. Yeah, I like hyena. And it sounds like Izzy does as well. Yay, hyena from Izzy. But what was interesting is the... excuse me. So Charlie, welcome on board Charlie, asking if the hyena is large. Not really. This one's quite a lot smaller than Ribbon and Gwen that we've been seeing over the last couple of days. There it goes. Excuse me, sorry guys, I realised the microphone's quite close nowadays. See, that was nice. In the olden days we had the microphone just on the dashboard here, and it's probably taken me about a week to kind of get it into my head that the microphone's actually on us now. So before we used to have to keep speaking here, which is why I've been sort of speaking there. It's funny, old habits die hard. But yeah, I would say a young adult, that hyena. So I'm just worried that perhaps the power lines may have affected us, so I'm going to try and keep away from that area. Ah, Crystal saying possibly Soul from Gwen from 2015, so that would be about right for a sub-adult. So that sounds feasible. Thank you very much, Crystal. And it's amazing. I love the work that everyone's put in to try and give us a breakdown of the hyena clan. It's the first time I think it's actually been done. I don't think it was one of those, I thought, oh, maybe we should start doing it because you can ID them from the spots. But I was never able to get around to it, unfortunately. That was the other thing I wanted to share with you, is showing you, let me get my tracking book back out again, is to actually show you can tell the difference between left and right and back and front of the lion track. If I can pull my line track up again. So the tracks of the lion and the leopard, if you line up your middle finger with the longest toe, you can actually tell if it's left or right, because then you can count how many toes are either side of it. So on this track here, for example, this is the longest toe, so it sticks out just a bit above that toe. So if I actually match up, so you take your thumb out, so if I actually matched up my fingers, it's 2 fingers on the left of the middle finger and 1 finger on the right, and that's exactly what's happening here. So that would be a left track. And sometimes you also get a bit of a drop in the back pad as well. So you can tell if it's left or right. You can also tell if it's front and back. Now, it's not very clear on here, but this is quite circular. And the front track has to be quite large because obviously it's carrying a lot of weight. It's got the head there, it's got the chest, so it's got quite a lot of the organs there, whereas the back pad really only has the rump. So you tend to get the front track being quite large. The lion was actually picking up his pace. So when they walk, if they're walking at just a normal slow walk, you can actually see where the back back pad is in comparison to the front pad. So if they're going at a very slow rate, the back pad tends to fall in behind the front pad. If they're going at, you know, a reasonable walk, then they tend to walk track on track. And if they're going at a slightly faster pace, then the back track is going to be in front of the front track. So you can kind of work out the speed of the animal from that as well. And if they're going for a run, if you can imagine how a rabbit runs, or maybe you've seen a cheetah and they have the front feet go out and then the back feet come over the top and they're either side. So when they're really going for it, when they're going for a fast run, then you've got the two and then the two more spread out. So there's quite a lot you can get from the tracks. So say our boy did speed up a little bit. Now it is starting to get a bit warm, so I'm going to take a layer off. I think it was, I thought it was going to be colder than what it actually is. The sun is rising. Unfortunately, we were quite focused on the tracks this morning, so we have missed the sunrise. But it is just through the trees there. We might, yeah, might be slightly off for it. Let's see if I can go forward a little bit. There we go. A bit more. See if we can go past the trees. There we go. So you can see it has risen quite a bit already, which is going to make our life a little bit easier for tracking, because then we have a bit of light casting the shadows into the tracks, and it just makes it so much easier than trying to track by spotlight. Can we hear the bird in the background? There. So that's your Who Sung It this morning. Hashtag Safari Live, YouTube channel. What bird is calling? Oh. No, my whistle's gone. The gremlin stole my whistle as well. So we're coming up to Sandy Patch. We've got the hyena tracks. Mansook, well done. Grey-headed bush shrike. It is indeed the ghost bird. So you don't often see it, but you do hear it. So I think we're going to carry on circling around and see if we can find more tracks of our young male lion. But in the meantime, I think Tristan has actually fought off his gremlins. Awesome. So we're going to go back to him and see how he's getting on. So enjoy.
We have fought off our gremlins. We had to get through and we found a few tracks, but I think they're the tracks, a little bit older tracks than what we are seeing that were on the road. I think those are the tracks from a few days ago, but we did find a buffalo kill, just not the kill we were looking for. That's a rather old one from last year, so that's a buffalo that would have succumbed to the drought, unfortunately. So it's not one that we are looking for now, but I was just discussing it with Seb. The sound of that buffalo sounded so much closer than where we are now. We're now far from the dam, and I just can't for the life of me think that this is where they were after those buffalo. I wonder if they didn't come this way and then pick up the buffalo and go back towards the dam side. So I want to go back into that area and just do a little loop around inside that section and see if we can't find it. It sounded like it was just slightly northeast of the dam, but close, because the sound that came through on the dam cam, we managed to log onto the dam cam and listen to it, and it sounded as though it was much closer than where I am now. Now I'm very far away. Probably, I would say, long distance, particularly with the foliage and vegetation that we've got. So I highly doubt that this is where it is. Like I say, there were some tracks there, but the tracks could be from when the Nkuhumas went towards Torchwood. When we tracked them the other day, which was, 2 mornings ago, they went all the way to Torchwood, and tracks inside a drainage system like this could easily be still there and still be looking quite fresh, because it's a sheltered area and there's not too much wind, and so the wind won't have disturbed it too much. There's also not as much traffic in terms of cars and animals, because animals will generally use the roads, and so it could be that those are the tracks that are from that period and not actually from last night. But the ones that are on Gowrie Cut Line that I saw coming towards this area are most definitely last night's tracks, but it's not to say that they didn't end up coming back into that same block again. So difficult to say, but we're going to try our very best to get onto these and see where these lions could be. I think to myself that they must be still around Mvubu. Now, I believe a lot of you are very concerned about the injured lioness and her little hole on her tummy. Well, I don't think you need to be too worried just yet. It is a thing that does happen to lions fairly commonly, and you'll find that some lions will get hit every now and then by a buffalo. It's the nature of the game that they play. When you hunt big, large bovines, there is a very real risk that you can get badly injured. So it is possible, and I don't think we need to worry too much. Had it been really serious, you would have found that it would have punctured deeper and it would have caused some damage to the internal organs, and she would not be in the condition that she's in. She still looks good, she looks strong, she looks healthy, and so I would imagine she's okay. It's just that it must be a little bit uncomfortable, and it'll take a bit of a time to close up. Remember Mfumo's face. So for those of you that are new viewers and don't know who Mfumo is or what happened to him, Mfumo is one of our male lions we have here. He's part of the Birmingham Coalition, and he had a massive hole in his face that looked terrible. There was even maggots inside there, so it wasn't a very pleasant thing to see, and everyone was very concerned about him. But over time it starts to heal up, and eventually the maggots clean everything out, he cleans it himself, and you get into a situation where it will then eventually heal. So now if you look at Mfumo, you would never know that he had such a big hole in his face, and so it's okay. I'm sure she will be alright. She's moving, she's walking with the Pride, and as long as she's able to keep up her nutrient level and to be able to keep grooming it, she's going to be just fine. Right, well, I'm going to try and find myself a road, because it seems as though I've been in the bush for about 5 years now, and so while we do that, let's go across to Tara, who I believe has got a mystery feathered friend, so let's go and see if she can solve it.
Hi everybody. Oh, it looks like we're going to be losing it, unfortunately. We did have quite a lovely view of a bird just hovering to our left, showing, and I say there's not much in the way of a breeze, but it was hovering. So I thought it was a kestrel to begin with, because that's very typical behaviour of a kestrel. It will fly into the wind, so facing into the wind, and then it will hover so it can see any rodents moving around. And actually kestrels can pick up the UV trail of the urine, basically, of the rodents, so they can actually see those trails because they can see that kind of light. So the urine leaves that UV trail as they're running around, so they can actually then see the trails and then catch the rodent on those trails. But it didn't look like a kestrel, it looked like this little bird instead, the black-shouldered kite. So quite unusual with the kite. It doesn't have the primaries out like you would expect to see with the kestrel, but it certainly was this wing shape and had all the right markings of it. But as I say, unfortunately it flew off a little bit too quickly, but it did look like it, so I'm pretty sure it was the black-shouldered kite. Very common bird, and I say it is one that when it sat there I can ID it very well, but as I say, when seeing that behaviour, quite interesting. I say it's more the kestrels that do that. Oh, Let's see if we can get off the road. We're going to go down Triple M and do a loop around, maybe come back onto Impala Plains. I'll just see if I can... Oh, we've got an elephant up ahead. Is that what you were saying? Sorry, I was seeing if I could find somewhere to pull off for the car. I'm not seeing the largest land mammal in front of me. How about that? So I'm going to pull off here. And hopefully the elephant will cross over and join us on this side. You're going to cross the road? See where you're going to go. Oh, big bull. Yeah, we're going to cross the road. And just see where he's going to go. Or he's going to hide himself behind the bush. No, he's going that way. Yeah, so I'm just going to pull around a bit further if he's found a bush to eat. Hello, mister. Oops. Smelling. So there's a very, very light breeze this morning. Now can you see he's actually putting the branch in his mouth and turning it. So just stripping the bark off the branch. Captain Murphy saying he is massive, and he actually is. He's quite a big bull. Not the biggest I've seen, and his tusks are quite short, but certainly a decent size. The station's got one my daughter and love on Voyatel access close to the gate. So the teeth are a little bit different to ours. Oops, giving FC the update. All stations have got one my daughter and love Voyatel access close to the gate. Slowly fambering in a southerly direction. So yeah, so their teeth are different to ours. They don't have any canines, so they're the sharp teeth in either side of your front teeth. So those tusks are actually the front teeth, what would be the equivalent of these teeth here, the incisors. But then they do have the molars, and they move from the back of the jaw to the front of the jaw. So they on both sides of the jaw, and as I say, they just use those molars to strip the bark or chew off any of the branches, crunch the leaves up. Just basically designed for grinding. So any sharp-eyed birders on board, there's a little black bird in front of the elephant, waiting to see if he's going to disturb anything for it to eat. So anybody who want to have a go at IDing that bird there, hashtag Safari Live, YouTube. What little bird is that? Hi Justin. Justin wanting to know if male elephants eat more than female elephants. Yes, they do. Male elephants, because they're larger, basically. Oh, got a few of them fighting just above the elephant as well. That's what you can hear. Bit of a territorial dispute, I think. I'm going to try and see if I can move into a slightly better position so we can try and see his head again. Nope. I got a branch or something in front of me, I wonder. Yes. Gina in BC. Well done, Gina. Bragging rights for you. It was a fork-tailed drongo. My favourite little bird, because they are just so cheeky. But I think there is a bit of a territorial dispute going on with the fork-tailed drongos. And the thing about the elephant's foot is it's packed full of soft tissue, so they move so quietly through the bush. And look at that. How huge was he? Cannot see him. It's amazing how wild they hide. So they do get the nickname the ghost of the bush as well. So we go from the ghost bird to the ghost of the bush. Now it is quite thick in here. Sure, that's very thick in there. Did he push his way through? Did you see which way he went? Went in there somewhere. See if I can hear him breaking a branch. Over there. Okay. Let's see if I can get around to where it might open up a little bit more. So I don't want to try and drive through that and startle him. So I want to try and get ahead of him if I can. Hi Cheryl, welcome on board to you. Cheryl wanting to know if the trees that are stripped of their branches regenerate. And it depends on how much damage an elephant has done to a tree. If it's completely taken off the bark all the way around, then the tree's not going to survive, because it actually holds the cambium and the phloem, two very important transport systems for water and for food. The xylem transports the water from the roots up to the rest of the plant, and the food from the leaves down to the roots and the rest of the plant as well. So if that's destroyed, the plant can't survive. If a branch is broken, it depends on what the species of tree. Some of them are able to regrow, but some of them aren't, so they might just grow a new branch elsewhere. Can you see him? Is he over there? So it has opened up quite a bit here. I don't think we're far from Triple M now, actually. Oh, there he is. Well done. Okay, I think he's crossed the road, actually. Oh, I was hoping to try and get a view of his face for you, but I think we might just have his rear end, unfortunately. I'm just going to try and get past this quarry. And he may just cross that little road there, so we may get a chance to see him once again before he heads off into the west. Oh, there he goes, he's toileting now. So they can produce, especially for a big bull, somewhere around 100 kilos of dung. That's what he thinks of us. Oh, brilliant. So we'll leave him to his devices, but I think Tristan has managed to locate what he was looking for. Very, very exciting. Oh, I'm so jealous. Enjoy, guys. It's going to be awesome, I hope.
Well, we have, and as you can see, they are busy tucking in to that buffalo that was bellowing last night. So there we go. They are getting all in there, and there's one female that's feeding. The rest of them all passed out. There's cubs in the background that are covered in everything that is buffalo and are lying on their backs. There you can see them. Look at that. So that's cubs that have had a long night and have had a good feed. You can see they're all covered in bits of blood and other things. So for those of you that are a bit squeamish, I think probably now is the best time to look away. But our Nkuhuma Pride has gotten its meal that we were hoping it would get, and it was a bit of a struggle to find them. We were a little bit just on the western side of where they are, and I'm so surprised as the sound and how far it's carried. But when I look from where we are now, I can actually just see the towers of the camp, and we're very high here. So the camp is just over that direction, and you can see we're high and it drops down, and so this sound just carried straight across, and that's why it sounded much closer than what we thought. But that's the general area there. You can see the little open section that goes up to quarantine in the distance, and that's all that area over there. So the lions weren't actually as close as we thought they were. It's just that sound travels a lot more. But isn't this cool? And that buffalo is massive. It's actually the buffalo that we saw yesterday afternoon, as we know, at the dam. It was the last buffalo that left. You can see it's got the much shorter horns than the other two had. So it was that one right at the back, and unfortunately I would imagine the lions picked up its scent from the dam itself and then followed it all the way through. So they celebrated their Lion Day in style with a massive food source. But you can see how she's getting in there, and you see her throat, you see how it's working. That I would imagine that she's been licking a bit of what's going on inside there. They often do drink the blood from the bottom of the carcass. She's also pulling and trying to use that tongue to get a bit more grip to be able to then eat some of the flesh around there. Now, Jacob, are you wondering how long? About half an hour. So I'd imagine that this buffalo unfortunately would have been dead at around 8:15, somewhere in that area, and that's when it would have succumbed to all of these lions. So they've been feeding on it for most of the night. That's why you're only seeing one lioness feeding. The rest are all flat sleeping. There's bellies everywhere, and there's just sort of lions lying all over the place at the moment. You can see another little cub has popped up its head. So they are lying around, and they've all had a fairly decent feed. They're not massive just yet, and they haven't eaten too much just yet, but they will. They know with a carcass of this size that they don't have to rush what's going on, and they will get more than enough food to sustain themselves. And as Alice says, some of the cubs look as though they are so content. I always love watching the females though feeding off a buffalo kill like this when they've had a bit of time to feed. It's the laziest thing you've ever seen. They just kind of sit there with their head and they chew away and they try and get some sort of food out of it, but they really just can't be asked to do it too much. And then you can see a bit of a full belly as well on one of the lionesses lying down. Now I think the lioness that's feeding is the one that has the slightly discolored eye and looks like her. I can't see nicely. It might be the older female as well that has the wound, but it's difficult from the angle that we're at. All I've got is, the back of her head. So until such times as she turns and looks at us, it's going to be a bit tough to know who she is. But you can see there they've taken the innards out, so they would have gotten all of those tasty liver and kidneys and heart, and that's what they would have eaten first. They also then get rid of the stomach content so as not to spoil the meat, but you can see there is a lot of buffalo still left there. They've hardly really got stuck in there. Eaten a little bit away at the tail area as well, and then up in the chest where she is now is also where they're feeding. So they've eaten a little bit, but not as much as I actually thought they would. Given that they were quite skinny last night, I thought they would have gotten into this and really eaten a lot more, but it seems as though they're just content with what they have had, and they'll slowly but surely devour it. In fact, the female with the wound is right here. Seb, can you just go there quickly? Sorry, while she's got her leg like that, so we can actually see the extent of this wound. So you can see there, it's quite a nasty hole that she's got, but it's not as bad as I thought. It's not as deep as I thought it would be. It's not pleasant, but it certainly isn't as deep. What is quite interesting there, and what's something that might later in life be of concern, is it closest to her teats? I wonder if it's not maybe damaged one of her teats, which means that if she has more than 3 cubs at this stage, it might be a bit of a problem, because it looks like that is right by one of her teats, and it looks as though it is a hole from a buffalo horn, I would imagine, would have caused that. Not this particular buffalo, because we saw it yesterday, but I would imagine that is unfortunately what has happened. But what you can see there is that it doesn't penetrate the stomach cavity, so it's not hit a vital organ. So while it looks really bad, it's very clean inside there. There's no maggots, there's no necrosis, and so it's actually, she's done a really sterling job to keep that as clean as it is. And slowly but surely it will start to heal. You can actually see the tissue on the right corners there, that is healing, scarring tissue, and slowly but surely that will all come together, and eventually it will be okay. But the problem with where it is it's rubbing. You can see there where it's been rubbing, so unfortunately it will rub a little bit, and it's going to take a long time for that to heal up, but it will. Now, Lisa, you say it looks as though the wound has gotten bigger. Well, it's probably what's happened is with the exertion of energy trying to catch this buffalo, she might have just split it open. Remember, when they grab buffalo and they're holding on, they're using all of their power, and they sometimes are being dragged, and her back leg might have just been pulled slightly, and it might have caused a little bit of a split and caused that to open up a little bit more. But it certainly doesn't look like an ugly wound. It's looking quite clean, so it's hopefully going to be okay. I remember, like I say, Mfumo's face looked horrific, and it looked a lot worse than that. You saw lots of black around the edges, and it didn't look good. Compared to that, it looks at least nice and clean, and hopefully in time it will all start to clean and all to heal up. The thing is with her, though, she still looks in good condition. It's not like she's looking bad at all. Unlike our cub here, who looks as though he's been rolling around in that buffalo. You can see there's all bits of nonsense all over him, and you'll find that they'll go over to one another and clean, and the cubs definitely have had a big meal. Look at the size of that belly. Oh, that is a massive belly. Now they're just going to bond with one another. You'll find that these lions, whenever this happens, is that they'll join up and they lie on each other and they hold each other's faces, and this is all part of the social practices of lions, and to make sure that the bond amongst them is strong. Are you uncomfortable? I would imagine by midday today these lions are not going to be as happy about having buffalo in their stomach, because they're going to start panting and be quite hot. And the thing is where they are now is right out in the open. There's very little shade where they are now. They've pulled that buffalo probably as far as they can, but there's really nowhere else they can take it. And so we will definitely see quite a number of vultures here by this afternoon, which I know Tara says she's a little jealous now, but this afternoon, when Tara comes, she's going to have a great time with all the vultures and hyenas this afternoon and evening. Now, Captain Murphy, you say you should think that the hyenas will be around here soon. Well, I suppose they should be. I mean, there was lots of tracks around Gowrie Cutline, which is where the lions came in, and so I would imagine that yes, they will come in here, but probably only this evening. I don't think we'll see them this morning. If they haven't already arrived now, I don't think they'll be here. The other thing is that the hyenas from the Djuma clan, if there's not a lot of the high-ranking females, if it's just Gwen and Ribbon, both of those have young ones to look after, and they're not going to risk getting too close to lions and causing trouble, particularly because there's quite a number of lions here at the moment. They're not going to try and risk their lives while they've still got little ones, so you'll find they'll spend a bit of time away, and maybe tonight they'll come in and they'll just see what's going on, and if they see a lot of lions like this, then generally they back off. It's complete opposite with the clan at Elephant Plains. At Elephant Plains, whenever there's a buffalo carcass, you'll find that these hyenas that are there come in force, and you'll end up with sometimes 30 of them all around the carcass, and I've seen them chase the Nkuhumas off before. I've seen them chase off a number of different individuals as well. So like I say, if you're a little bit on the squeamish side, it's probably best that you look away while we show you this lioness. So Taylor McCurdy, Miss McCurdy, what are you doing watching? You're supposed to be on leave and relaxing, but Miss McCurdy says, damn, she wishes she was back at work. Well, I'm sure, Taylor, don't worry. If this is the Nkuhuma's buffalo, hopefully they will stick around for the little bit, although I feel like these 3 buffalo that have been hanging around, this might be the last we see of them for some time. It certainly will be the last we see of this particular buffalo, but the others, unfortunately, I don't think are going to hang around too much anyway. But don't worry, Taylor, I'm sure you'll be back soon enough, and the sightings have been really good, and I hope that they will continue for Taylor, because I know that she really loves to see particularly the Nkuhumas. It's one of her favorite prides, and she's always looking for them. So don't worry, Taylor, I'm sure you'll be back soon, and there'll be buffalo around, and hopefully you'll be able to have a similar sighting when you get back from work. Now go back to bed and stay on leave. But it's amazing how she's, with all the meat that there is at the moment, that she's latched onto the trachea of this buffalo. So you can see that would have come up from the lungs towards the throat, and I would have thought she would have gone for the softer rump meat that you see around the tail. And I believe a lot of you were wondering what that big white tube is, and like I say, that just comes from the lungs up into the mouth area, and that would have been responsible for helping with breathing. And it's strange to me because, like I say, there's rump meat, there's a lot of other flesh that's there, and I thought it would have been much easier to feed on that rather than trying to bite on what I would imagine would be a rather rubbery, rather chewy tube that they're on at the moment. So maybe it tastes better than the rest, who knows. But that's definitely the female with the discolored eye. You can see now that the light's hitting it, it actually does look quite opaque. It's not looking that good. I wonder if she can actually see out of it. It would be interesting to know. I was asking Tara about it last night, and she said she actually didn't really notice too much that it had any sort of glazing on it. So I wonder if it's not a little bit brighter than it used to be. But if there is some sort of opaque coloration there, I'm pretty sure that the eyesight out of that eye is not as good as it should be, or completely gone. But it would be interesting to know just how much she can see. Look at those canines as she chomps away. It's very cool. I'm so excited for the Nkuhuma Pride. I'm happy that they've finally managed to get a decent meal on Djuma again. It's been a long time since we've seen them on a buffalo carcass. In fact, I don't even know when the last time they were on a buffalo carcass. So Aaron, you're saying, take me back to the epic days of the Nkuhumas in 2016, and so good to see them on a buffalo kill. I know it was crazy to see how many buffalo they killed last year, and maybe this is an omen. Maybe this is a sign of what's to come over the next 2 months. I remember the height of that sort of period where the Nkuhumas had that long run here on Djuma was around this time. It was August, September, if I'm not mistaken, July, August, September. So maybe it's a month later this year, and they will continue to be here for quite some time. As long as we can get some buffalo here, I'm pretty sure that they will stick around. And it just goes to show you that even though the buffalo are in far better condition than they were last year, and that there are so few around, that they haven't lost their technique and the way that they do things, because, well, they've managed to catch this buffalo quite easily last night. Well, not easily, but they've certainly done a good job. It's a massive buffalo bull that was not in bad condition at all, and this would have been a serious fight. As what we heard it go on for a number of minutes, and you can imagine that that buffalo would have been, from the moment we heard it, would have had lions on its back. So for 30 minutes it probably was trying to keep the lions at bay, and so these lions have really done well to do this. They haven't had too many opportunities at buffalo in the recent months, so it's good to see that they haven't lost their knack with them. But I'm just trying to see if all adult females are accounted for, because as Tara was tracking that other lion or lioness, it looked as though it might be a male lion track. One of the Birminghams does have quite small feet, but it seems as though all the lionesses are here. I can see 4 of them at the moment. I just can't see a 5th one, but maybe it is a lioness that walked off. I'd be very surprised though if one of the lionesses left this particular carcass. Now, I'm going to sit and enjoy this for as long as possible, because why wouldn't you want to bask in the glory that is the Nkuhuma Pride's meal? And while we do that, let's go back to Tara and see whether or not she still has the tracks for that other line.
Hi everybody, so we did do a loop around for tracks. I'm just hearing a monkey call not far from us, so I think it's worth us checking out. It might be on the opposite side of the road, but as we were looking to see if we could find any more lion tracks south of where we lost them, they cut through the bush, we just bumped into a ground hornbill. So I'm just going to try and see if we can relocate. It's just gone behind the bush, so I'm really hoping it's not going off at the angle that I think he is. I think he's walking in that direction, unfortunately. I wonder where the rest of the family are, but as I say, we did hear them earlier calling. That's really special, because the ground hornbills have been hit very hard. So they've tried to conserve them by taking the second egg. So the hornbills will actually lay 2 eggs, but only one chick will actually survive. They'll feed the more dominant chick, and unfortunately the other one kind of withers away. So what an organisation did, so I'm just still looking out for that hornbill, but I think he has gone. So let's see if we can try and find where those monkeys are calling from, because they are alarming. So it'd be nice to try and catch up with them and see what they're alarming for. Maybe it's our lion, because he did cut through the bush down there. But the organisation took the second egg and rear the chicks, and then releases the chicks back out into the wild, and that seems to have helped their numbers somewhat. Unfortunately, they need quite large trees and stumps and things like that to actually nest in, and unfortunately they're just not finding enough nest sites, and that's one of the big reasons why their numbers are dropping so much. So it's just lack of suitable habitat, and they'll eat anything and everything. Ah, well, I'm glad we were able to catch a glimpse maybe of the of your favourite African bird, Jack, the ground hornbill. They are, and they're kind of turkey size, you know, they're sort of that sort of height. Quite amazing. Are you seeing something? The monkeys. I can still hear them behind us. So who was that in the tree? Ah, it looks like a brown snake eagle. We're hearing a squirrel as well? Not quite. They are over there. Okay, so I've got... Yeah, they're definitely not happy about something. So I think we're going to come round. Hopefully this snake eagle will stay there. So yeah, we're going to loop around. If we don't find anything, we'll come back to the snake eagle. And I hope you're not eating your breakfast, is all I'm saying. Enjoy, guys.
Well, yes, breakfast will not go down well if you're watching this lion chomping down on the trachea of a buffalo, but she looks as though she's had a big meal. She's starting to pant a little bit. You can see a bit of licking of the chops, getting rid of all the blood that's on her mouth. But look at that there, the panting has already started. So these lions are going to be like that probably throughout the day. If she's panting now while it's still so cool, she's going to have a tough day ahead of her. But it's interesting that they've chosen Gari Dam to go and drink, because I would say this is about equidistance between Gari Dam and Buffelshoek Dam. Buffelshoek Dam is actually not far from us at all. It's just on the other side of this ridge too. So it's interesting that they're going to Gari Dam, and I'm glad they're going to Gari Dam, because it means that we will get to see them, and you guys will get to see them throughout the day and night. You'll find there'll be a lot of movement of them, particularly when it's warm like this. A lot of panting, they lose a lot of moisture, and they'll actually go down to water quite regularly. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see lions going down to the dam quite often in the next couple of days. And this buffalo kill should last them. It's a very decent sized buffalo, so this buffalo kill should definitely last them easily, I would say probably the next 2 days, maybe even 3. So they're going to be on this carcass for quite some time, I would imagine, and that means that there will be lots and lots of sightings of the Nkuhumas. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm pretty sure at some stage a Birmingham male is going to arrive here. I highly doubt the Nkuhumas are going to keep this a secret. As soon as we start to see vultures circling above us, we're going to have a situation where the Birminghams are definitely, and you can see she's looking up already. She's waiting for those vultures to start arriving. You say you really hope the Birmingham boys don't arrive and confiscate this kill. Well, I mean, it will be alright if there's just one. If one comes in, he'll have a good feed, and he'll still allow the Nkuhumas to feed. I've seen Mfumo and Tino both share their buffalo with the Nkuhuma Pride, so it'll be fine as long as we don't see 2 or 3 of them. If 2 or more rock up here, we're going to have a situation where this buffalo is going to get devoured in day probably, and that's not going to be very good. So I'm hoping that the Nkuhumas really get a decent amount of food out of this, a good 2-3 days of feeding. Now I'm just having a look. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 lionesses. So there is one lioness that I haven't seen. Seb, do you see any more lionesses? I can only see 4. Yeah. It's the 4th one is at the back there, but I don't know, it looks like only the 4 lionesses are here, so maybe the tracks that Tara does have is a 5th one, but I would find that very strange if a lioness decided to move from this area. And the reason why I would find it so odd is because lions won't just leave a kill for any particular reason. Yes, to go and have water would be fine, but she's marched on a long way from there. The only time you ever see that is when lionesses have cubs, when they do that. But at the end of the day, we know that the Nkuhumas don't have cubs. None of them have got suckle marks. None of them have been pregnant the last few times we've seen them. So we have to sort of banish that idea from us. And for those of you thinking about that little cub that Ellie saw, well, we've seen the Nkuhuma Pride so much since then. And I highly doubt that it could be possible that that cub is still alive. It would really shock me if it was. But this female is now moving into the shade. I think she's decided it's too warm in the sun, the one with the hole in her belly. So there she is there. She's just moved a little bit into the shade. I'm sure she's going to lie down, but you can see she's walking fine, even though she's got that big wound. She's not in any way walking with discomfort, so as long as she can walk and move around, she's going to be perfectly fine, which is good to see. What I might do just now is I think I might reposition just now. We stopped here because, well, this is where we found them and saw them and thought that would be a good place to stop, but I might reposition shortly and just go a little bit forward where we might be at a better angle for you, Seb. I'll do it just now though. I just want to see this female. Look at how she digs her head in there. Isn't this amazing? And they almost separate the skin from the meat, and they pull at those bits of meat that are attached, and she's at the moment going after all the big chunks of meat that will be on the shoulder blade area. Remember, buffalo have very powerful shoulder and neck areas to hold up those horns, and so that's what she's after. There's nutrient rich muscle that grows all over that section, and she's going to dig in, and you'll see she'll lift her mouth up and she'll kind of crunch her face up as she tries to expose those teeth that will be able to grip that muscle that she can then pull out and get those chunks. And you also can see, look at how her tongue is working. Look at her throat area. You'll see that you can actually see the tongue moving up and down inside there. So that's her trying to get that tongue to grip and to lick off any bits that are attached to bone. At the end of the day, even if they can't grab chunks, they'll still lick off bits as they go. So she's trying to get some grip to be able to pull a chunk into her mouth and then grab it and pull it out like she's doing now. It's actually an amazing angle to see, because it's not something we see that often, is to watch how much the tongue plays a role in their feeding behavior. There we go. Unfortunately, she's having spaghetti for breakfast, by the looks of it. Elizabeth, you're asking if they'll eat the hide as well. Yes, most certainly, Elizabeth, they will. That will be much later, though. You'll find that they'll start to eat the hide as the muscle content goes down, and then they'll start to kind of chew slowly on the hide, and it's more lazy crunching that they do, but it's not the best part of the meal for sure. It's got a little bit of fat on it, but it's not much, and so they prefer to go after muscle and innards first and then get to the hide later. And what they leave, the hyenas and vultures will clean up. But if you see a buffalo carcass in 3 days time, 2 days time, we'll come back into this area and you'll see that there'll be nothing left of that skin. But look at this lioness. You see what she's doing? She's dragging dirt. You see she's kicking it back over. So what she's trying to do is she's trying to reduce the amount of scent that is being pushed out by this buffalo carcass. When they pull out the rumen and the blood, it has a very powerful, strong scent to it. And so what she's trying to do is just to cover that up so that the scent doesn't waft into the air and things like hyenas and the Birmingham boys then arrive here. So that's why she's doing it. Unfortunately for her, though, the vultures are going to be their downfall. There's going to be many a vulture that's going to spot this. There's in no way that they're going to hide it where they are. It's far too open here. And so that vulture, the predators. Like I said, now, while I'm repositioning, I believe Tara has had a few alarm calls that she's heard, so let's go across to her and just see whether or not she's heard any more or if she's figured out where they are.
Well, we're still trying to listen out. We're on Triple M now. I think the monkeys were calling somewhere just behind us, but I'm sure I just heard other alarm calls from other antelope over here. We've got some kudu just here, and they're keeping quiet. So I hear that there is a female that is missing. So it could well be female tracks that we've been following this morning. So they had the look of a female when I first saw them, but later on they did have the straighter edge, which would be a male. And as I say, it's not a strict rule about that, so they can interchange. So if there's a female lioness missing, of course she's female, female lion that's missing, then it could well be that we've been on the trail of the female rather than a young male, although the young male would make more sense to me from a different pride, but I'm not getting any alarm calls whatsoever. So I heard a lot of impala snorting. So somewhere here, I think those monkeys are on that side of the road. We were checking all the trees as we went along here. It's gone very quiet now, which is very frustrating. Can hear the woodpecker calling, bearded woodpecker. Let's say we've got the power line just up ahead here, but we do lose you guys. The gremlins jump on board, so I'm wanting to avoid that area if we can.